Hello and welcome our blood viewers to RTG's News English edition. As usual, we begin tonight's news with the major and top highlights. Let's follow. Semga inspection visit to President Guled Military School in Holhol. And on the international scene in Africa, enhanced cooperation between Tanzania and the USA. Those were our major top highlights. Welcome back to our newsroom, our beloved viewers. The Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, made an unannounced visit inspection today at the military school, President Guled of Holhol. Indeed, as part of the rise of the Djiboutian Armed Forces in the policy of rejuvenation of its guards, the Djiboutian Army has conducted at the end of 2021 a recruitment campaign targeted at young technicians. The profiles sought for this recruitment were pilots in air traffic controls for the Air Force, electrical engineers, electromechanicists, and specialists in general mechanics for the Navy. The targeted diplomats are the baccalaureate of the scientific theories and license holders. Following the reception of new ships for the French Navy and the new troop transport aircraft for the Air Force, it was necessary to carry out a targeted recruitment. After the submission of applicants, a joint commission was created by the military command to select the best profiles. Thus, it was necessary to introduce the young recruits the hard job of soldier, which requires courage, abnegation, rigor, discipline, and a supervising of oneself. This apprenticeship requires the teaching of disciplines specific to the army, as the military school President Guled of Holhol is the nursery of the training of any soldier. This basic training, commonly called Al-Arms Basic Training or FETA, takes place within it. Its training responds to an urgent need to the ADF on the new ships and the recently acquired aircraft. It also responds to the instruction of the President of the Republic wishing to commend himself on the Djiboutian youth. It is within this framework that this inspection visit of the Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces is taking place. Upon visit from the Dolphin helicopter, the small delegation chaired by the Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, was welcomed by the commander of the military school, Lieutenant Colonel Mohammed Jami' Kayad. General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim greeted the picket of honor set up in his honor. Then Lieutenant Colonel Mohammed Jami' Kayad, commander of the military school of Holhol, presented to the Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces a brief presentation that gave an account of the training provided at Holhol for the benefit of these young recruits and the psychonomy of the trainees. At the end of the presentation, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim started a guided tour of the facilities of the military school. First of all, the Chief of Staff visited the classrooms where the young recruits followed the military education given by quality executives. These young recruits have been in Holhol for 2 weeks. This training, called Basic Training for All Weapons, FETA, is the basic military training essential to any young soldier. It allows for the education of young soldiers ready to be deployed on operational missions. At the end of the training, the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, addressed the young recruits to thank them for having chosen to serve their country in uniform. Choosing to defend their country against all enemies, both internal and from within and without, is a daily challenge that requires courage, bravery, and self-sacrifice. But it is above all a noble and as were the beautiful words of the Semga and blanketed with sense and ethics. Thereafter, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim was able to visit the various infrastructures of the school, among others the infirmary of the corps, the cooking point, the relaxation areas, the technical support area.
tahay ilwaadey markiyan askari gala arligaynu leenahay eba ugu dhaartoon ogada xisaaraye tahay ilwaadi markiyan askari gala arligaynu leenahay eba ugu dhaartoon ogada xisaaraye gam'aanahay tiir la irkadaanahay adiga haadamtaanahay arlagu gam'aanahay tiir la irkadaanahay adiga haadamtaanahay
The Afar Pen Center of Djibouti, in collaboration with the Victor Hugo Bookstore, organized at the Key Center the presentation of a new book entitled On the Traces of Afar Median, written by Ali Muhammad Kamel Said Ali Tosh, a writer very passionate about the origin of the history and the migratory movements of the peoples of the Horn of Africa, in particular of the Afar people. The conference began with the presentation of the book by the author, followed by a very intensive and rich interactive debate with participants from all walks of life, including parliamentarians, senior officials, professors, with a strong participation of friends of the writer and members of his family. The content of the book On the Traces of Afar, Son of Median, is focused on the origin of the Afar, which begins in Mesopotamia at the time of the Media and continued through all Arabia, including Yemen and Oman, and East Africa, and even to Morocco. A very well-documented book with very old written references from Egypt and Greece of the great Arab authors and explorers who traveled through the Horn of Africa region to speak about the origin of the migratory movements and the peoples that the Afars have been in contact with at a certain moment of their history. The author has also drawn his resources from ancient books, the Torah, the ancient Aramaic and Greek books. Ali Tosh crosses information with the contents of the Quran with the support of Arabic-speaking letters and very passionate friends like Professor Kamil and his childhood friend, Kabir Hazma. At present, the Afars are located in the three countries Djibouti, people who immigrated a lot since its origin, which is located in Mesopotamia and which moved until Arabia, have been all the African continent and also in the Maghreb, according to the writer Ali Tosh. The author Ali Tosh writes in his book that Ahmed Nagashi, great Ethiopian king, was an Afar named Shehim. He also found the trace of Afar among some people living in Morocco and closer to Somalia, especially to the city of Marka and among the community Rahyan Wen of Somalia. A book full of ancient references and details on the people that the Afars have been living with from antiquity to the present day, and which is on sale at the Victor Hugo Bookstore. In an interview granted to the press, the author indicates that the book is very well documented with very old written references from Egypt, Greece, and the great Arab authors and explorers who traveled through the region of the Horn of Africa. Moving towards the Regional Council of Arta, which hosted this weekend a validation workshop on the development plan of the region of Arta in the presence of all members of the Council who finalized priority activities under the project of the RDB 2021 to 2024 funded by the European Union of the Republic of Djibouti. In the Republic of Djibouti. These are the actions included in the action plan of the RDP of the region of Arta. In addition to local elected officials, the validation workshop led by the executive of the Regional Council was attended by civil society, officials of the deconcentrated services of the region, and consultants, expertise friends. The workshop started with an opening speech by the President of the Regional Council of Arta, then the national consultants in charge of supporting the Regional Council in the implementation of the RDP program made a presentation on the project methodology. At the end of the workshop, discussions and suggestions were made for the implementation of a regional development plan for the Arta region over the next 5 years. The Djiboutian Federation of Taekwondo organized the ceremony of passage a rank for the benefit of its young girls and boys adherents this discipline. the multipurpose hall of Stadium Al Hajj Hassan Guled up to dawn in the presence of the President of the Federation, Mrs. Fardousa Musa Ege, the steering committee, parents of young laureates, and guests from South Korea where the sport is native. Noting is passing that Taekwondo differs from other martial arts, especially in its form by the high degree of specialization of its practitioners in kicking techniques. Discipline has been inducted in the program and included of the Summer Olympic Games since 2000. Within the assistance of the Secretary of State for Sports in the National Olympic and Sports Committee of Djibouti, whose President Mrs. Aisha Gardale is Vice President of the International Taekwondo Federation, the practice of the sport has experienced a new boom and attracts more and more young people. Shifting gears towards the international scene now, Tanzania and the United States have chosen to strengthen their economic cooperation. President Samia Suluhu Hassan was received Friday in Washington by the American Vice President Kamala Harris. Among the areas discussed were the private sector, air transport, and the fight against COVID-19. The purpose of this trip to the United States focused on investment opportunities in the economy in general, but also in the field of tourism, and your trip also generated almost $1 billion of new investment from American countries, and that has contributed and will definitely contribute to economic growth in Tanzania, but also to growth, economic, and jobs in the United States as well, Kamala Harris said. Moving to soccer now, a FIFA coach development session in Dubai. Last week in Dubai, the FIFA coach development team joined experts from all 6 confederations for a technical development workshop. Exchange of ideas and sharing of methods were at the heart of the program. The long-term goal of this FIFA coach development program is to raise the standards of coach education worldwide, in line with the FIFA President's 2020-2023 vision to make soccer truly global. We want to try and align similar standards and criteria to establish benchmarks around the world, explains Ben Rijvik, head of FIFA's coaching education department and project manager of the technical study group in France. Well, viewers, we conclude this edition. Thank you for being with us, and make sure to tune in later for more. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you once again for joining us. Take care.